Welcome to India's #1 budget headquarters. Decoding key policies, delivering market-shaping insights, and unlocking the potential of India's growth blueprint. Beaming live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal Budget Headquarters.
Good morning. It's a Friday morning. We're coming to you live from the CNBC TV 18 Motilal Oswal Budget Headquarters. I'm Prashant. With me, my colleague Surabhi. It's a big day. It's the last day of the week, but it's also perhaps the most important for us here in India with the RBI MPC meeting decision, which I think is going to be prime, center, and focus. Surabhi, hi, morning.
Hi, Prashant. Good morning. And it's a Friday when the next day is a holiday. We're not working tomorrow, the Saturday.
Last Friday, we were saying that maybe we shouldn't say thank God it's Friday.
It never felt like a Saturday. It never felt like a Friday, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yes, the good thing is that tomorrow is not a working Saturday. But like you said, lots and lots of events lined up, right? Lots of global headlines. There is, of course, the policy. There's, who knows, we might get, the new income tax bill also, tabled. So plenty of action ahead.
Absolutely. And so let's take it from the top, as we always do, and tell you the most important things which you need to sort of be cognizant of. So the RBI rate decision, I think, we'll get to a slightly reverse order, not starting from what happened overnight, but the RBI decision. And of course, it'll be out at 10. You'll hear from the governor. I mean, there's short commentary from the governor at 10 o'clock. And then, of course, later there'll be a chance for question and answers. And a 25 basis point cut is in the price. Markets are absolutely expecting it. It should happen. But could there be more measures? And then, of course, we'll hear from the governor, because very little is known about the governor and what his stance is on a variety of issues. And so much has happened over the last many months in terms of the macro environment. Rupees, of course, just one thing. So that's, really the big one. Now, overnight, U.S. equities were higher. It was an okay session, about 0.5% higher on the Nasdaq. Amazon reported numbers, and they were a little soft. And some commentary that it largely is because of the capex that they've allocated for AI. Stock was down 4% post-market. So maybe it'll show up in futures, the S&P E-minis, etc. The 10-year yield, 4.43, just about a 2 basis point change. You had the dollar index, which was flat around 107.67. And again, a lot to do with President Trump. So this is what he said about oil prices. He said, we will drive the price of oil down and everything will follow. So that is coming in from Trump. Then he went on and reaffirmed the progress made in stopping the Russia-Ukraine war. Remember, there have been lots of reports that U.S. allies are expecting a plan to be put out next week. And this is going to be a big one after what's happened in the Middle East. Now, in terms of meetings, the Japanese Prime Minister is expected to meet Trump in person today, although expectations are low. The Panama president is also going to be speaking to Trump on a phone call. And we'll see what happens. Remember, Trump has said he's going to take back the Panama Canal. And so those are things, I don't think they're market moving, but you'll see headlines around this. No details about the all-important meeting between President Trump and President Xi. And I think that's the big one, because both have imposed tariffs on each other and negotiations, etc. But we don't have any firm timelines on it. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent also sort of said that he had a very constructive meeting with Fed's Powell. And this is interesting. He essentially was commenting about the 10-year the 10-year paper, U.S. bond. And he said that Trump's goal of energy dominance, deregulation, and non-inflationary growth, the 10-year yield would naturally come down. I mean, the reason it's interesting is because he's not talking about the Fed and what the Fed will do in terms of interest rates. He's talking about the 10-year market interest rates. And he's saying, well, eventually that will continue to come off because of these three reasons. So more on this later. U.S. monthly jobs data to boot later tonight, and that typically comes out around the time that U.S. markets are starting to trade. Okay, so just tying the levels here. Yesterday, of course, the market came off the highs, and we had a slightly sort of negative close, about a 0.4% lower close. Support comes in at 23,532, which is the immediate 70 points away from where we left off. That's a 40-hourly exponential average, and below that, you're looking at 23,445. That's a 61.8% retracement. And resistance at 23,807, which is the high that we saw recently. Bank Nifty has not seen, in this phase, has not seen a negative close yet, unlike the Nifty. And here, first resistance, 50,893. is the first, and then 51,119. I mean, same numbers. It's basically just the retracement levels. And support, like for the Nifty, at the 40 hourly, which comes in at 49,891. I think, at least as markets opened 9:15, till the time that you start to hear from the governor, the rate decision is one thing, but I think markets will wait to hear from the governor, the tonality, etc., in terms of what he'd like to do. And then maybe we'll see more consequential moves. GIFT Nifty will come up on your screen, giving you a sense of how we are likely to start this morning. It's about 20 odd points higher. So be high.
Hi, Prashant. I was still trying to wrap my head around the Amazon headline. They're spending $100 billion in AI in 2025. But $100 billion. That's just, that's quite something. Morning, Nigel.
Well, morning. Yeah, and that's going to be a bit of a drag, I think, today because, the commentary was very, very great. I think numbers came post-market, so we'll have to keep an eye out on that factor as well.
No, absolutely. But to talk about the cues here at home, the thing is Asia's trading slightly mixed and there's some caution out there. So it's not entirely a straight line up in Asia. Some of the markets, actually China's doing pretty okay. China, Taiwan, and the mainland Chinese markets, the Shanghai Composite, they're all up and about. But the Japanese market, that's under a little bit of stress. The Nikkei is down about 0.5%. There's been fresh, updates out of Japan this morning. The data there continues to look very, very strong. In fact, there's household spending data that came out of Japan for the month of December, and that's just blown past estimates. I think Reuters estimates were around 0.2% or so. The spending number is 2.7%. That's telling you the strength in the Japanese economy. And again, it's reiterating all those expectations of more rate hikes by the BOJ and the yen move that we've spoken about in the past as well. The yen being relatively a lot stronger versus the dollar. Anyway, in speaking of rate cuts, the BOE moved yesterday. Bank of England did lower rates by about 25 basis points. They've come down to 4.5%. And now it's all eyes on the Reserve Bank of India with the new governor in the house. And if they decide to do 25 basis points, it's the first time that the RBI will cut rates in nearly 5 years. The last time we started that rate cut cycle was just after COVID. May of 2020 is when we first had a repo rate cut. And then it was sort of, steady to increases, and then now we're talking about a rate cut all over again. Let's talk about the other internal cues, which are very important. On the FPI front, there's actually no great support because after that one flash in the pan kind of a day of buying, the selling is pretty solid. Once again, look at that, 3,500 crores of cash market selling, offset to an extent by domestic institutional buying of around 2,700 crores. Today, it's really going to be about the RBI policy, so I'll watch out for banks and how the positioning there is. Remember, yesterday, the bank Nifty was outperforming the Nifty. And if the rate cut comes in and if more measures come in on liquidity as well, that could be boosting banks and financial stocks in general. So that's one area. And then there are lots and lots of earnings in focus. Just to give you a sampling, and it's a mixed bag, but there are more good headlines than negative headlines, must say. Bharti has been a rock-steady, solid show. The revenue is up almost 9% sequentially, and the ARPU has jumped big time. There's a 5% increase in ARPU. That number's touching 245 crores. And a lot of the internals are actually even better than Jio for Bharti. So let's watch out for this stock. ITC is a very mixed bag. Yes, the cigarette volume growth is better than estimates. But if you look at the the FMCG business, that's not been that great. It's a drag. There's a margin pressure there coming in. Volumes are lower than estimates. So let's see. And there are a couple of acquisitions, by the way, for ITC. So we'll see which way the market goes on this one. Hero Moto is steady. There's some margin improvement as well. No problems there. Blowout numbers from PG Electroplus. Today, I'll watch out for this mid-cap stock because not only is the growth chugging along at over 80%, they've done really well. Margins up almost 90 basis points. They've upped their guidance. And this is a very hot space in the market, EMS. So watch for this stock. This, for me, was the standout result, post-market. BSC, another well-tracked stock. Numbers are okay. They've had to spend a little more on this settlement guarantee fund, which is why the profit got impacted. But otherwise, the internals look okay. So lots of earnings to go over. There's Britannia as well. And if earnings aren't enough, that big, boardroom battle for Religare, that's in sharp focus as well today because the new man who's thrown his hat in the ring, the US-based investor, Mr. Digvijay Gaikwad, he's now moved to the Supreme Court. He's saying, stop the Burman's open offer. I'm making an open offer. Consider mine as well. It's getting really hot in here, to quote this song, because Nigel's always quoting songs this morning. So I'll go with this one for today.
Well, let's take stock first of the global cues. And you look at the dollar index, you look at the US yields out there, as well as Brent crude prices, all well behaved. So hygiene check. No worries on that front. We have got big cues, though. Starting in the first half of trade today, you have the RBI. Later this evening, you'll have the US jobs report. And over the weekend, you'll have the Delhi election verdict as well. So those are the top cues for the next 72 hours or so. What did the FIs do yesterday? Well, they unwound some of the long positions that they added in the previous trading session, and they added some shorts. That causes the short position to go back up to around 84%. And in absolute terms, they're holding net short positions to the tune of around 1.6 lakh contracts. It's at elevated levels in absolute terms because of the contract resizing. That's why it doesn't look that large. But otherwise, in absolute value terms, it's very, very high. Clients are on the flip side. They are at around 1.4 lakh contracts on the long side. Pulling up the options data, we start the new contract because you'll have the weekly expiry that will play out on the coming Thursday. And at the 23,600 strike, you have the call as well as put that was fairly active. That gives you a sense that maybe there was a short straddle at play out here. What is that? You ride the same strike, call as well as put. In this case, you'll pocket a premium of close to around 400 rupees and you'll want the Nifty to stay in this range if that is the strike. So 23,200 important on the downside, 24,000 on the upside. And incidentally, if you look at the 20 DMA, that becomes the reference point on the downside. And on the upside, the 200 DMA. So we're in this 800-point band. The bulls and the bears will be battling it out to see which side it can swing. On the Nifty bank, well, that was quite resilient in yesterday's trading session till the final hour of trade once you got the SBI numbers. But 50,800, that's a bit of a resistance zone. But since, the RBI action is something that will be tracked, things will be volatile. But stock-specific action is going to be a buzz. So I'm looking at three, parts today. One is REC. The numbers yesterday appeared a little bit softish, and the stock ended at the low point of the day. And there's an open interest build-up out there as well. So shorts in the system. So the growth, yes, it was softer than expected, but there is high recoveries that we saw. And return profile as well is fairly good. So I'll keep an eye out on this stock because there was some shorts that got built into the system towards the end. Next is the battle for the control of Religare. That's moved the Supreme Court, so we'll wait by for the verdict at around noon today. The Delhi High Court, though, has rejected Rashmi Saluja's plea to halt the AGM. So I think that's moving in the right direction, so we'll keep an eye out on this stock. And finally, ahead of the Delhi elections, if the BJP comes out on top, there's been a conflict between state as well as centre with regard to the liquor market out there. So if there is a resolution, I'll keep an eye out on these stocks, namely United Spirits, United Breweries as well. You'll always want the state and centre to be on the same page like we saw in UP, and you have the UP liquor policy that played out. So keep an eye out on a couple of these stocks.
All right.